So, today I'm going to be talking a little bit about model-based systems engineering benefits. And specifically, I'm going to be looking from two perspectives, from the literature and from industry with practitioners' opinions, essentially. So, just to briefly talk about what we're going to go through, I'm going to discuss a little bit about why I think it's important to take a look at MBSE benefits. Then I'm going to present methodology and results from a literature review, followed by results from several survey questions from the SERC MBSE Maturity Survey. So, when looking to implement a new technology or process, generally the first thing that you need is to prove that it's worth implementing. So, it needs to have some type of benefit or value over the current way of doing something. But right now, when it comes to MBSE, we're seeing a conflicting view in the literature over the presence of MBSE benefits. So some are claiming that benefits have been shown and are accepted and well known, while others say that benefits are not well defined, and often the lack of perceived value is a top inhibitor for adopting MBSE in various surveys that have been conducted. So this leads to the question of whether MBSE really provides benefits with respect to a document-based approach to systems engineering. So I'm going to present a literature review on MBSE benefits to start us off. There were two questions that guided this literature review. The first is what benefits are claimed to be associated with using MBSE in the literature. In this review, benefits refers to the positive consequences that arise from using MBSE over the standard document-based approach. And the second question is what type of evidence supports such MBSE benefit claims? So in this review, we were not only looking to see what benefits were claimed, but how the authors supported those claims. So I refer to this as evidence type in this study, which I'll speak a little bit more about in a few slides. This review used an adapted systematic literature review approach. And I say adapted because the sources were selected ahead of time in order to limit the potential pool for feasibility. So 20 journals and conference proceedings from the fields of systems engineering, space systems, and engineering design were selected. Now, these don't cover all of the potential outlets that a paper talking about MBSE could be published in, but believe that it makes up a representative sample and includes some of the most relevant sources where a paper would be published that was talking about MBSE. From these sources, the keywords model-based systems engineering and MBSE were used to elicit all papers that reference MBSE at all within the body of the text. So this search wasn't limited any further than that in order to capture every paper that mentioned benefits, because there wasn't a specific indicator that was common enough that we could limit that. So the resulting papers that contain the keywords MBSE or model-based systems engineering were evaluated for mentions of benefits. And if a paper was found to mention a benefit, the benefit and the evidence type supporting it were recorded. So there were 4 types of evidence claims that were used to categorize benefits. The first is measured benefits, which refers to benefits that were measured through a defined measurement methodology. Observed benefits are benefits that were observed by the author over the course of an implementation of MBSE or a case study, but were not measured through a defined measurement system. So this has some evidence, but it's not necessarily objective. Reference benefits are benefits that were included and cited from another paper. So this type of evidence is kind of a black box. We can't really know what type of evidence the reference paper used, So it's really unclear whether a reference benefit has that objective evidence that we're looking for to support it or not. And finally, perceived benefits are the benefits that were expected, predicted, or perceived to be evident by the authors of the paper. So there was no documented justification for this type other than the author's own belief or expectation. And it was possible for more than one evidence type to be apparent in one paper. This table shows the 48 benefits that were found in this literature review. So these benefit categories were found inductively, and each of them have at least 2 instances of a citation in a paper. So these benefits include primary benefits like early V&V and secondary benefits like reduced costs. So just to reiterate, the goal of this review wasn't to comment on or interpret which benefits are actually present, but just to objectively document what is occurring in the literature currently. So 847 papers were found from our sources that mentioned MBSE. So out of those, 360 mentioned benefits. And all these 360 papers, only 2 of the papers had a defined measurement system to support their benefit claims. And on the other hand, you see that 240 papers, which is about 2/3 of all of the papers that cited benefits, contained benefits that were perceived. So this difference is pretty substantial. This tells us that the majority of benefit citations are not based on any observation or measurement, but merely the expectation or perception of the authors. So this graph shows the total benefits across all of the evidence types. So this includes measured, perceived, observed, and referenced benefits. For readability, only the benefit categories that contain at least 1% of all the benefits were included in this chart. It's hard to show data with 48 benefits to look at. So these are the top ones. Overall, the dispersion of benefits is wide across the different benefit types. The highest occurring benefit, which is better communication and information sharing, which is at the bottom there, only had about just over 10% of all cited benefits. So this could mean that there is a lack of agreement as to what the benefits of MBSE are, given that most of the benefits are based on expectation and not evidence. This table shows a different view of the data. It is broken up by the different evidence types, and this is the top 6 or 7 benefits for each of the types. So it's difficult to draw any conclusions specifically from the measured category as the small sample size of only 2 papers. However, across the other categories, there is some alignment that we see in order of the most cited benefits. So better communication and information sharing is the top benefit over observed, perceived, and referenced benefits. And there are several other overlapping benefits, increased traceability and reduced cost, which appear in the 3 different categories. Interestingly, the order of observed and perceived benefits is almost identical, with only one difference occurring in the order of their top 7 benefits. So this could be interpreted 2 different ways. Either observed benefits maybe aren't as reliable as we would think, and they're maybe more akin to people's expectations or perceptions, or perceived benefits may actually have some value as they align well with the observed benefits. But really, there's no way to know which is true until more measurement is attempted to find out what the actual benefits are. So, two of the papers, like I mentioned, contained measured benefits, and these were assessed qualitatively using these five criteria. So, while both papers described a measurement process and were thus categorized as measured benefits, there were several methodological issues evident with both of them, especially in their definition of a measurement instrument. So both papers had some subjective ways of um, measuring what the benefits were. So these were based on qualitative scoring, estimations, personal observation, and expert opinion. So this could lead to some unreliability in terms of the objectivity of the measurements. Also, both of the papers had some missing information that would make replicating their methodologies difficult. So, based on this analysis, even the two measured papers in the set have some flaws, which calls into question, like I said, the reliability. So, now I'm going to present a different perspective from practitioners. So recently, SERC, along with several other partners, conducted a survey to assess the value and effectiveness of MBSE adoption for improving business outcomes. As part of the team working on this, I analyzed 4 free response questions using the 48 benefit categories found previously in the literature review. So 3 of the free response questions on the survey related to MBSE benefits and 1 related to MBSE metrics. So the responses of these 4 questions were evaluated and coded using the benefit categories from the literature review. So each response that contained mention of a benefit was matched with a benefit category from the literature review. The metrics question was also evaluated this way, with each metric that was stated being matched to its corresponding benefit. So, for example, if there was a metric that was measuring cost, for example, that would correspond with the benefit reduce cost. So that was the way that that was analyzed. This graph shows the results from the 3 questions related to benefits. So overall, the benefits from the survey results aligned really well with the benefit categories from the literature review. And actually, only 2 benefits from the survey did not align with a specific literature review category, so this provided some support for the literature review right away. So across these 3 questions, the response rate for the different benefits is fairly consistent. There are a few outliers which may have been caused by the wording of the questions. So for example, question 26 asked about benefits from collaboration. So the benefits that closely relate to it, like better communication or increased collaboration, appear at a higher rate for that question. Similar to the literature review, the occurrence of benefits is spread pretty evenly across the different benefit categories. So this graph shows the results from the question related to metrics. So overall, there was noticeably less claims of metrics than there were benefits. In fact, 21 of the benefit categories from the literature review weren't represented at all in the reported metrics. Additionally, 33 responses indicated that there were no metrics being used, and 17 responses contained metrics that were related to evaluating the adoption process of MBSE, but not its actual performance. So this likely means that a considerable number of the benefits claimed in the other questions were not based on measurement. This graph shows a comparison of the literature review results to the survey responses by percentage. Overall, the alignment is pretty good, as you can see, with just a few outliers of the literature review having a higher percentage. So this could mean that maybe published authors are more optimistic about the presence of benefits than practitioners, or that in the literature review, the results are more based on perception, and maybe in the survey they were based a little bit more on observation. Or it can mean that in the literature you see kind of that optimistic perspective, like I said, that is kind of evaluating what could be benefits from MBSE if it's operating at its highest level. But maybe in actuality, in what we see being implemented in industry, maybe the maturity isn't there for all the parts, or it's not operating at that optimal level. So, to conclude, based on the evidence from the literature, we can't say that there is a significant empirical evidence of MBSE benefits. Only 2 out of 360 papers used measurement to support their claims, and even these had several weaknesses that call into question their reliability. Additionally, a majority of benefits are based on perception and expectation, which appears to be supported by the survey results. There's also little agreement on what the benefits are across the literature and amongst practitioners, most likely because these have not been measured. The occurrence of benefits is widely distributed across the benefit categories in the literature and survey results. Now, this doesn't mean that I don't think that MBSE will provide value over a document-based approach. Really, the conclusion here is that MBSE benefits need to be measured in order to prove which of them are actually present. And I think doing that will lead to more a wider adoption rate and acceptance, and just um, an easier time proving the worth of MBSE to maybe people who don't know about it as much. So thank you for listening to this presentation, and I look forward to answering any questions.